Welcome to CIS 204, Section 1, Basic EDP Concepts. Introduction. Data is generated in every organization, no matter the size and type of the organization. The data generated helps the organization to keep track of events, observations, and transactions that take place within the organization. Generating and organizing this data in a useful way is called data processing. In this study session, various terms such as data, information, data processing, and data processing system will be discussed. Learning outcomes. At the end of this study session, you should be able to 1. Define the concept of data, information, and data processing. 2. Explain various data processing activities. 3. Discuss the data processing cycle. 4. Explain data processing system. Data. What do we mean by data? Data is the name given to basic or raw facts, e.g., the name of a customer, the phone number of a friend, a passport photograph, a recorded speech, etc. The numerical values used in any mathematical formula are also referred to as data. Note that the word data is the plural of datum, which means fact, observation, assumption, or occurrence. Specifically, data are representations of fact pertaining to people, things, ideas, events, and transactions. For example, if a class teacher decides to write down the names and date of birth of the pupils in her class, she is in fact collecting data, see Table 1.1, about the people in her class. The data being the surname, first name, other names, and date of birth. These data are usually represented by symbols such as letters of the alphabet, numerals, other special symbols, or in some other way. Information. Let us distinguish between data and information. When data is converted into a more meaningful or intelligible form, then it is said to be processed into information. Some authors will define information as data that has been transformed into a meaningful and useful form for specific purposes. In some cases, data may not require any serious processing before constituting information. However, data is not useful unless it is subjected to a process through which it is manipulated and organized, its content analyzed and evaluated. Only then does data become information. For example, if the class teacher mentioned earlier goes ahead to calculate the ages of the pupils in her class as well as sort the list, she then has information on the distribution or age ranges of her pupils as shown in Table 1.2. Information itself is identified and defined by its users. There is no hard and fast rule for determining when data becomes information or what constitutes data or information. A set of letters and numbers may be meaningful to one person but meaningless to another. For example, when you purchase something in a supermarket, a list is printed out for you with a number of data items, such as your name, address, items you bought, the number of items purchased, the price, the tax, and the amount you paid. Separately, these are all data items, but if you put these items together, they represent information about a business transaction for that supermarket. It could then help them to determine when to replenish their stock and what to buy. However, to you, the buyer, it may just be a checklist to ensure that the items you bought were all captured and perhaps packaged. Data processing. Now, let us give a working definition of data processing. Data processing is the art of handling or manipulating data in some fashion. Regardless of the activities involved in it, processing tries to assign meaning to data. The ultimate goal of processing is to transform data into The ultimate goal of processing is to transform data into information. Data processing is the process through which facts and figures are collected, assigned meaning, communicated to others, and retained for future use. Hence, we can define data processing as a series of actions or operations that convert data into useful information. We use the term data processing system to include the resources that are used to accomplish the processing of data. Data processing activities. We shall now examine those activities which are necessary to transform data into information. Some people immediately associate data processing with computers. A computer is not the only tool used for data processing. It can be done without computer also. There are many tools used in processing data. These include manual tools such as pencil and paper, mechanical tools such as filing cabinets, electromechanical tools such as adding machines and typewriters, and electronic tools such as calculators and computers. However, for some tasks, computers outperform people, and it is therefore imperative to use computers for such tasks. There are some other tasks for which computers are a poor substitute for human skill and intelligence. Regardless of the type of equipment used, various functions and activities which need to be performed for data processing can be grouped under 5 basic categories as shown in figure 1.1 below. Collection, originating, measuring, recording, comparing, conversion, coding, classifying, verifying, transforming, manipulation, sorting, calculating, summarizing, comparing, storage, storing, retrieving, communication, and reproduction. Figure 1.1, categories data processing. Collection. Data originates in the form of events, transactions, or some observations. This data is then recorded in some usable form. Data may be initially recorded on paper source documents and then converted into a machine-usable form for processing. Alternatively, they may be recorded by a direct input device in a paperless, machine-readable form such as the item scanners in a supermarket, a digital camera. You will understand why in the next module, data collection is also termed as data capture. Conversion. Once data is collected, it is converted from its source documents to a form that is more suitable for processing. The data is first coded by assigning identification codes. A code comprises of numbers, letters, special characters, or a combination of these. For example, a student's matriculation number could be DLC/2014/45623. It is useful to code data when data requires classification. To classify means to categorize, that is, data with similar characteristics are placed in similar categories or groups. For example, we may like to arrange account data according to account number or date. Hence, a balance sheet can easily be prepared. After classification of data, it is verified or checked to ensure the accuracy before processing starts. After verification, the data is transcribed from one data medium to another. For example, in case data processing is done using a computer, the data may be transformed from source document to machine-sensible form using magnetic tape or a disk. Manipulation. Once data is collected and converted, it is ready for the manipulation function, which converts data into information. Manipulation consists of the following activities: sorting, calculating, summarizing, comparing. Sorting. Sorting involves the arrangement of data items in a desired sequence. Usually, it is easier to work with data if it is arranged in a logical sequence. Most often, the data are arranged in alphabetical sequence. Sometimes, sorting itself will transform data into information. For example, a simple art of sorting the names in alphabetical order gives meaning to the list of contacts on one's phone. The contact list will be practically worthless without sorting. Business data processing extensively utilizes sorting technique. Virtually all the records in business files are maintained in some logical sequence. Numeric sorting is common in computer-based processing systems because it is usually faster than alphabetical sorting. Calculating. Arithmetic manipulation of data is called calculating. Items of recorded data can be added to one another, subtracted, divided, or multiplied to create new data. Calculation is an integral part of data processing. For example, in calculating a student's CGPA, his raw scores are first converted to grade points, and then this grade point is multiplied by the course unit to get the weighted grade point. The various WGPAs are added together and divided by the total units taken to get the CGPA as seen in Table 3. Summarizing. To summarize is to condense or reduce masses of data to a more usable and concise form. For example, you may summarize a lecture attended in a class by writing small notes in 1 or 2 pages. When the data involved is number, you summarize by counting or accumulating the totals of the data in a classification or by selecting strategic data from the mass of data being processed. For example, the summarizing activity may provide a general manager with sales totals by major product line, the sales manager with sales totals by individual salesman as well as by the product line, and a salesman with sales data by customer as well as by product line. Comparing. To compare data is to perform an evaluation in relation to some known measure. For example, business managers compare data to discover how well their companies are doing. They may compare current sales figures with those for last year to analyze the performance of the company in the current month. Storing. To store is to hold data for continued or later use. Storage is essential for any organized method of processing and reusing data. The storage mechanisms for data processing systems are file cabinets in a manual system and electronic devices such as flash disk, magnetic tapes, CDs in case of computer-based system. Retrieving. To retrieve means to recover or find again the stored data or information. Retrieval techniques use data storage devices. Thus data, whether in file cabinets or in computers, can be recalled for further processing. Retrieval and comparison of old data gives meaning to current information. Communication. Communication is the process of sharing information. Unless the information is made available to the users who need it, it is worthless. For example, what is the use of carrying out a survey on the effect of oil spillage on a fishing community without sending the report to the stakeholders? Thus, communication involves the transfer of data and information produced by the data processing system to the prospective users of such information or to another data processing system. As a result, reports and documents are prepared and delivered to the users. In electronic data processing, results are communicated through display units or terminals. Reproduction. To reproduce is to copy or duplicate data or information. This reproduction activity may be done by hand or by machine. The data processing cycle. The data processing activities which were presented earlier are common to all data processing systems from manual to electronic systems. These activities can be grouped in 4 functional categories: data input, data processing, data output, and storage, constituting what is known as a data processing cycle. Input. The term input refers to the activities required to record data and to make it available for processing. The input can also include the steps necessary to check, verify, and validate data contents. For example, if questionnaires are sent out to be filled, say in January 2015, and one of the questions asked is for the respondents to state their date to differentiate between the various types of data of birth. If a respondent who is a graduate states that his date of birth is 23rd April 2015, then something is obviously wrong with the year of birth. This needs to be verified before being used. Processing. The term processing denotes the actual data manipulation techniques such as classifying, sorting, calculating, summarizing, comparing, etc. that convert data into information. Output. Output is a communication function which transmits the information generated after processing of data to persons who need the information. Sometimes, output also includes decoding activity which converts the electronically generated information into human-readable form. Storage. This involves the filing or storing of data and information for future use. We can view the activity of data processing as a system. According to James O'Brien, a system can be defined as a group of interrelated components that seeks the attainment of a common goal by accepting input and producing output in an organized process. For example, a garri production system accepts raw material input and produces finished goods as output. Similarly, a data processing system can be viewed as a system that uses data as input and processes this data to produce information as output. Input to processing to output. Now, let us examine the different kinds of data processing systems. A manual data processing system is one that utilizes tools like pens and filing cabinets. A mechanical data processing system uses devices such as typewriters, calculating machines, and bookkeeping machines. Finally, electronic data processing uses computers to automatically process data. Summary 1. Data is the name given to basic or raw facts, e.g., the name of a customer, the phone number of a friend, a passport photograph, a recorded speech, etc. The numerical values used in any mathematical formula are also referred to as data. The word data is the plural of datum, which means fact, observation, assumption, or occurrence. 2. Data processing consists of those activities which are necessary to transform data into information. A computer is not the only tool used for data processing. It can be done without computers also. 3. The data processing activities described above are common to all data processing systems from manual to electronic systems. These activities can be grouped in 4 functional categories: data input, data processing, data output, and storage, constituting what is known as a data processing cycle. 4. The activity of data processing can be viewed as a system according to James O'Brien. A system can be defined as a group of interrelated components that seeks the attainment of a common goal by accepting input and producing output in an organized process. This is the end of study section 1. Thanks for listening.